Hi, I'm Alex Kidman from Fat Duck Tech, continuing my one-week look at the iPhone 6 Plus. I've swapped out my regular Android phone for the 6 Plus for the week as much as is practical, and I'm assessing it day by day on a different aspect, as well as answering questions and just kind of getting a general overall feel for whether or not Apple's largest iPhone ever is worth your money. Now, today I've been taking a look at photography, and the camera on the 6 Plus is an interesting creature, because it's a very clear point of differentiation between the 6 Plus and the 6. The 6 has Apple's 8 megapixel camera, it's quite good. The 6 Plus has the same thing but with optical image stabilization, which should in theory lead to better pictures. My own examination of this shows that yes, you can get better pictures with this. This is easily the best camera that Apple has ever put on an iPhone. There's a couple of little caveats to that though. Firstly, obviously, you can have the greatest camera in the world and be an inept photographer. We've all been there, I've certainly been there. And as such, yes, you can take a bad photo with this thing. The other thing is the size plays into this somewhat, and that depends really on how you like to take your photos, especially if you like to use the volume button as your shutter, because if you do that, you'll discover that, yeah, you're holding a slightly larger device. Now, again, that's a hand size kind of thing. For some people, they're going to struggle and they're going to wobble, and that's going to introduce problems for photography. Other people will say, well, actually, this is a really nice, big, easy thing to hold, not some tiny little phone, and it's simpler for me. Very much a personal preference taste kind of thing. Again though, it's an area where I would strongly suggest that you grab hold of one of these in an Apple store or whatever, because certainly at the moment they seem to be sold out, and give it a bit of a dry run. See how it suits your hands for photography if that's important to you. I've also been asked about the speakers on the 6 Plus. The speakers are okay. I'm not a big person for using my phone as a standalone speaker music system, but I get that this is a thing. The issue is that the physical body is not terribly heavy. There's not a lot of space for it to kind of absorb sound as it comes out of those speakers, so it can be a little on the tinny side. I would strongly suggest anyone who's really keen on music to actually be using an external, decent quality Bluetooth speaker. But if audio output is really, really important to you, I would say the 6 Plus runs a second to phones like the HTC One M8 with its really generally excellent boom sound speakers. Again though, I can't see why you would buy a phone purely on the quality of its speakers, and I don't have any significant complaint there. They are smartphone speakers, they work, they're not terrible, they're not akin to the ones that you get on very, very cheap phones where they're not just tinny but awful. I've also been hit with a bunch of battery life questions. This is just the topic that never ends, it seems. On the query as to whether or not I would rate the 6 Plus over a Galaxy Note 3, well, there's a bit of a muchness. As I mentioned in my previous video, battery life figures are notoriously rubbery because people use phones in different ways, and you're often comparing the chemistry of a much older battery to a completely new one. And the completely new one should outclass an older battery. That's the way chemistry works. But what I would say is, if you had a like-for-like unit, I don't think you'd appreciate a significant difference between the two. I could run either of these flat within a day with very heavy usage, but on my average usage, they easily last through a day, either of them, and they're rather good. I can't say quite the same for the Galaxy S5. My own battery testing experience with the S5 show that it can run out of battery, in my experience, to the same kind of rate even as an iPhone 5S, and I know some people might be a little surprised by that, but again, those are my experiences with it, my usage patterns. So if you had an S5 that was continually running out and you jumped up to an iPhone 6 Plus, then yes, I think you would see a significant improvement in battery life. You would also, of course, be jumping ship, and this is clearly one of the markets that Apple is targeting with the 6 Plus. It wants to go after that Android market that says, oh, well, I would have bought an iPhone, but the screen size is so small. I've never seen that as a personal big problem, but I get, again, that it is a thing. And if you were looking that way, if you were jumping from something like a Note 3 or the upcoming Note 4, I don't know why you jump quite that quickly, but maybe you would, then you are going to see some significant differences, of course, because iOS and Android are different operating systems. There's an awful lot of app compatibility, as in the same apps available, but obviously you've got to do a certain amount of repurchasing, and there is some relearning to do. I'm not a big fan of saying that one is more intuitive or easier to use than the other. No, I actually think that's rubbish, because there's so many little things that become acquired knowledge that you just know. You go, oh, well, this does that, and you swipe down to do this. And there are pros and cons on either side. Honestly, the Android versus iOS argument bores me to tears. Buy what you like, use what you like, and enjoy it.